What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Florida Prison Talk. I'm your host, Easy Win, and today we're gonna be going over my man Big Tim's case file. I've been getting a lot of comments about Big Tim's case. I've been getting some hate comments, but a lot of more support than anything. The hate comments been coming from people that's been hashtagging white pride and 21212. People that's saying, "Oh, he's blaming the white person for what he did." No. When I read this case file, you guys are gonna understand everything with Big Tim's case, and you're gonna see everything I'm talking about, how they railroaded him. You understand what I'm saying? You're gonna understand exactly what I mean when I say they railroaded him. You understand what I'm saying? And check this out. I'm gonna go over a couple of statistics with you before I get into Big Tim's case file. And make sure y'all tune in tomorrow, man, for Big Tim Part 2. K Wing Slim and Nigga Charlie. We got a good one tomorrow. Make sure y'all tune in tomorrow for Big Tim Part 2 of Florida Prison Talk. Let me go over some inmate mortality statistics with you guys real quick. Florida Department of Corrections since 2015 to 2020 had almost 1,700 deaths from natural causes. Almost 230 deaths from accidents. You can only imagine that how many of those deaths are cover-ups and not accidents. Almost 80 homicides, and almost 100 suicides. I tell you guys those statistics for this reason right here. In 34 years, Big Tim has managed to make it out of prison and avoid all four of those categories. He didn't become a statistic to natural causes. He didn't become one to an accident, nor homicide, nor suicide. He beat all of those categories, and after 34 years, he came home. You do not survive 34 years in prison being stupid. 34 years in prison, you got to know when to hold, you got to know when to fold, you got to know when to go, and you got to know when to stay. You do not survive that long being stupid. You got to know how to move. You got to know how to duck, and dodge. And when it's all said and done, you kind of got to know when to pick your battles in order to survive 34 years in the Florida Department of Corrections. Doing my research, I've been doing a couple of research on people in Jackson, CI, and these two homicides stuck out to me in Jackson, CI. It stuck out to me for the simple fact that the two inmates that got killed, one of them had 2 years and 8 months to serve, and he got killed under 3 years. Another one had 3 years and 6 months to serve, under 4 years, and he got killed. Both of these inmates were killed due to stabbings. They had under 4 years, both of them. I say that to say this. Big Tim had 34 years and managed to come home, and these kids had under 4 years and did not make it home, which goes back to my point. You got to know how to move to survive 34 years in the Florida Department of Corrections. Shout out to Big Tim. We're going to go right into this case file, man. Y'all going to see what I mean when I say he's been railroaded. Let's get right into it. This is from the Sentinel. Teen gets 25 years in woman's death. September 1st, 1987. Timothy Fuse was sentenced to 25 years in prison on Friday for throwing a 1.5-pound piece of concrete that led to the death of Elaine Rock. I see in the comments everybody is asking me what's a missile. The state of Florida considers a missile any object that can be thrown or shot, any object that can be thrown or shot to cause great bodily harm. A rock is a missile, which Tim got convicted for. A bottle can be a missile. A grapefruit or even a mango can be a missile in the state of Florida. Fuse, whose court testimony showed he had an IQ of 57, was ordered to serve the sentence for second-degree murder after he completes a 15-year sentence imposed in July for unrelated robbery of a necklace. Why would you run this consecutive on this 15-year-old? I think the 25 years is enough of a debt to pay to society. Why would you run this sentence as consecutive? He got railroaded all day. In my opinion, he had ineffective counsel. This is really messed up, man. He's 15 years old. He didn't even know what was going on. They said he had an IQ of 57. He didn't even know the severity of the seriousness of this crime. Fuse's attorney, Barry Krishner, asked Palm Beach County Circuit Judge Marvin Mounts to provide Fuse an alternative sentence to prison to allow for rehab. His counsel asked the judge to allow him for rehab. You could have gave him juvenile life. He would have been out in 6 years. There's plenty of other things you could have done. My fear is that if we just lock him up, what are we going to do about him in 20 years when he is released? Tim's counsel asked the judge. We got to decide how we're going to help Timothy and what do we expect him to be in 20 years. If we're going to help Timothy, we'll just have to bite the bullet now. Before sentencing Fuse to 20 years, listen to this. The judge told Big Tim's lawyer, your client's dilemma cries out for help, but there is no help, at least that I am aware of. Do you see how nonchalant that is? So y'all just left it at that? Let me read that again. Before sentencing Fuse to 25 years, Mounts told Krishner, your client's dilemma cries out for help, but there is no help, at least that I'm aware of. So you just give him 25 years. You don't do no research or try to help this guy, nothing like that. I can't get over this. Prosecutor Charles Burton asked Mounts to exceed the state sentencing guidelines that recommend a 22 to 27 year prison term for Fuse's murder conviction. Fuse had an extensive history of juvenile crimes and previous attempts at rehab had failed. He's 15 years old with an IQ of 57. It's something y'all could have done for Big Tim. Despite his limited IQ, he knew right from wrong and he knew throwing the concrete through the window of a moving vehicle was wrong, Burton said, which is the prosecutor. Elaine Rock, 52, of West Palm Beach, was returning from a grocery shopping trip in preparation for Thanksgiving dinner with her family when the concrete crashed through the windshield of her van. Keep in mind now, all this stuff is alleged. I don't even think Big Tim did this. He had co-defendants in this case and everything. This is all allegedly. He didn't even know the severity of this crime or the seriousness of this crime. And you'll see why I say that in the last sentence of this write-up. Instead of a reunion, it struck her on the head and caused her to hit a utility pole along the 3500 block of Old Dixie Highway in Riviera Beach, which is where I reside at now on the 3500 block, which is where I always see Tim at now. We live right down from each other. Instead of a reunion, her family went to a funeral, Burton said, and I really do feel bad for Miss Elaine Rock. Rock's son John also asked Mounts to exceed the state recommendations in sentencing Fuse, and he needs to be on supervision for the rest of his life. It's only right that our son says that. He lost his mother, so I'm not mad at none of that. It's only right that her son said that. But keep in mind now, this next part of this article that gets me. I'm still reading the article. Fuse's mother, Beverly, rushed out of the courtroom in tears after the sentence was announced. Fuse's grandfather, Tom Brown, who maintains that someone else threw the concrete, would not comment on the sentence. Krishner said there may be grounds for an appeal. He argued that Fuse should not be judged guilty of murder because he did not have the intellectual ability to form the intent to commit a crime. Big Tim didn't even know the severity and seriousness of this crime. That's the third time I said that. And you're going to see why I say that, because this last sentence alone explains everything of where he was at mentally. This last sentence alone. Timothy is a sweet kid who has no idea what is going on, his counsel said. He called me from jail and asked if he would be out in time for Thanksgiving. This man is thinking that he's coming home for Thanksgiving after a lady that died. He did not know what was going on. The lawyer told Timothy, you have to do time for the murder. And Tim asked him, well, will I be out in time for Christmas? Did you hear what he said? After the lawyer said he won't be out for Thanksgiving, he said, will I be out in time for Christmas, which is approximately a month of difference. He thought he was coming right on home. And you know where that comes from? That comes from detectives swindling a little 15-year-old, telling them that if you tell us this, we'll let you go home. Just tell us this, man. Just tell us you did it and we'll let you go home. That's where all that stuff comes from. He has gotten railroaded really bad in this case. He had ineffective counsel. This is the prime definition. This man served 34 years in prison from age 15 to 49. What would you do? Your first day on that prison yard, Do you think you'll be able to survive? Do you think you'll be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel? Imagine what Big Tim went through mentally, knowing you got to do all that time for something you probably didn't even do. Ineffective counsel, nobody fighting for you, no help for you at all. They just send you to the wolves, straight to an adult compound as a 15-year-old. Thanks for tuning in to Florida Prison Talk. I'll see y'all tomorrow for Big Tim Part 2.